Hey, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Local Leaders, the podcast. And look, y'all, I've done 251 of these shows now, and I might be more excited about this than all of them. And I was excited about a lot. We have Livingston Parish Sheriff Jason Ard in the studio today. So first of all, welcome to Local Leaders.
Oh, thank you, Jim. It's good to be here.
I'm excited to kind of, tell everybody about this career of yours and God, look, I'm going to take y'all through a process here, a life in law enforcement, really. 30 years?
30 years.
Does it seem like 30 years?
Yeah.
It does. Maybe 31.
Yeah, some days. But I really enjoy what I do. I still love to go to work every day. And, when you find your calling, this is what you're supposed to do. It just, you enjoy, putting a uniform on, you enjoy getting in your truck in the morning.
Right.
And, other than the time I have to get up, I don't really care. I'm excited about the day, and every day in my career is different.
And
you've always do the same thing.
You've always wanted to be a police officer, it seems.
Always. I started in actually in 1989 as a Denham Springs cadet. I was 17 years old, and I always like to tell the story because the guy works for me today, Patrick Knabb.
Yep.
He was a Denham Springs officer, and I was 17. He had just started. I think he was actually reserved, trying to get on full time. But when I seen him in his uniform, I just, I was fixated on him. And I hate to even say that about him because he's like, oh, yeah, I'm your hero. But really and truly he was. When you're that age, you kind of looking for that role model. And but all he did was one thing. He let me ride in his unit one night to McDonald's and back to the Denham Springs Police Station, and I was on top of the world. And I still remember putting that cadet uniform on for the first time, looking in the mirror, and I tell this story, and it's so true. The only person in the world that knew what I felt like at that moment was probably Superman. And I still feel like that today when I put my uniform on. You put it on, you're a different person inside. It's a sense of pride about you and of what you do for the community. And it was just a calling from very young. And then, of course, in 1993, the story goes that hired on by the sheriff's office as a prison guard. And then that started my career. And look, back then, I remember, and no offense, Mr. Odom Graves was a great sheriff, but his uniforms were baby blue and probably the ugliest uniform I've ever put on in my life. But, I still was proud of it. I was proud to put it on. I was proud to be a Livingston Parish deputy. And, my competitive personality kind of kicked in as I grew up through this office and wanted to do better and wanted to do more. And whenever I would hear somebody talk bad about the sheriff's office, I'd take it personal. And I was like, if I got to work 2 or 3 nights on my own to catch this bad guy, I'm going to do it.
Absolutely.
If, I got to come out early to get all these paper serves, because back then you were everything. You had to do paper serving. You had to do calls as a road deputy, and sometimes you had to do your own investigations.
Wow.
It was just different. But at the end of the day, it was whenever you're where you're supposed to be, things just happen. And I commend our former sheriff, Willie Graves, for giving me opportunity as I grew. And I worked in every capacity of that office, uniform patrol. And I was uniform patrol supervisor. A lot of people may not know this, at 25 years old.
Yes.
So for the last 25 years, I've been in a leadership role. But I remember whenever I was promoted, I think, I know I did, I don't think, but I know that I argued with the sheriff a little bit. I was like, me? I mean, don't we have some guys that are, older, more seasoned? And he goes, no, there's something about you know how to talk to people, and I want you to do it. And so I was a night supervisor for several years, and it was different. And I think all through my career, as we go through this, I mean, I was actually taught by fire.
The best way to learn.
Right. I remember I actually rode on a Monday and a Tuesday night with a training officer. Friday night I was by myself.
Wow.
2 nights. And one night I had to listen. The next night I had to handle all the calls. And then Friday night I was on my own.
Oh, wow.
And back then it was 5 deputies that worked the whole parish. And one was a supervisor. And of course she had 4. So it was basically 3 of us on the west side of the parish, 2 on the east side. And it was pretty challenging.
Absolutely.
But you had to have a lot of patience and tongue control. Look, you get one of these big old country boys from Livingston that's had a lot to drink, and you don't talk to him right. It's just you and him.
Yeah.
Your nearest backup may be 30 minutes away, so you learn how to talk to people.
Yeah.
And back then, they only gave you a pair of handcuffs and a gun, and that's about all you had.
Yeah, that's it.
And so we didn't even have portable radios.
Really?
So when you would drive up to a call at night, there was 2 things you did. You rolled your window down, you took your microphone and hung it out the window,
Yeah.
and then you turned your parking lights on. And I remember my training officer telling me that, and I was like, so what's the deal with the parking lights, you know?
Yeah.
He goes, well, maybe the only way we find you.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why are you hanging a mic out the window? He said, because you may have to crawl back.
Whoa.
And I'm like, okay. And but it was I think it helped mold me to who I am, because that was one of the things I always kept in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
You have to control your temper. You have to control your you have to have patience. You have to control your what I call your verbal judo. You have to control that.
Yeah.
In a way of being able to talk to people, and somebody's really angry and really upset at you. And so those are the things that I learned early on in my career. And then that got me from there to investigations.
Yeah.
I did that for a while. I really loved that position. And then the sheriff pulled me out and said, look, I really want you to go to the training center.
Yeah.
So then I went to the training center.
He saw something in you.
He did, and one of the things that a lot of people don't know about me is I had a huge fear that was actually holding my career back, and I was very shy.
I've heard that, and it blows my mind to this day.
Yeah. So when I was a road supervisor, they used to make us go and do the neighborhood watch for these neighborhoods. So I always would bring a deputy with me, and it would make me feel a little more comfortable.
Yeah, sure.
And then as long as everybody was standing up, I was okay to talk.
Yeah.
So I'd always gather in like we were in a huddle talking. But if people were sitting down, it would make me nervous for some reason.
Yeah.
So I was not good at that.
Yeah.
I did not speak well.
Yeah.
And so he knew that I needed to go through these training classes and become an instructor. And look, the worst people in the world to try to train is law enforcement. These guys know everything, and they're gonna analyze everything. Yes. So I go through my career as a training officer, and during that time frame from being a training officer and backing up a little bit, I think it was in '97. I was coming out of being a supervisor. We created a SWAT team. We didn't have one at the time. And Baton Rouge, unfortunately, had lost some of their narcotic officers in some shootouts. Yeah. Yeah. And we were having a little bit of uptick in narcotic issues here in Livingston, being the bedroom community we was back then and still today. And we just knew we needed to do something different. Yeah. And so I created that, and to know today was, we win awards. And
2005, y'all were the top SWAT team in Louisiana.
2005.
Yeah.
So actually the last competition I was involved in.
Yeah.
And I figured I'd go out with a bang.
There you go. Yeah.
And my shoulders started hurting, and my age started showing a little bit. But anyway, it was nice to know that we did that and watch those guys perform today. So the difference is this. I went to sometimes I get to go to some of these calls with these guys, but I went to one not long ago, and I watched them take one of our drones and clear this house. Yeah. And I was just truly amazed. And, you have this equipment, and I'm involved with them. I watch them train, to be able to see some of that from what we do today to what we had to do with what we had back then, right?
Absolutely.
Tremendous. And these guys are very, very well advanced. And I want the top training for these guys. And I know that it was limited with us because of our budget restrictions. And, Mr. Odom Graves, I'm talking about him again, he did something that was phenomenal back in I think it was somewhere in the 80s, where he passed a 1/2 cent sales tax.
Yeah.
It was probably a 1/2 cent from Kmart in Dillon Springs, right?
Yeah.
And it was a 1/2 cent of basically nothing.
Right.
But it was something. And today that 1/2 cent has turned into something big.
Yeah.
And it has allowed us to be able to serve and protect our community a lot better.
Yes.
I can buy better equipment for these guys. I can put them in vehicles that are more reliable. And we can actually, buy the top of the line stuff that these guys need to do their job every day. And I think that's why, when we get into these numbers, probably in a little bit, we're able to do the job we do.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, if you're from Livingston Parish and you're not proud of what we have here, you got to be crazy, because I'm going to tell you, you would, just about everything is state of the art. You just built a beautiful training center, and we'll get into that. But I'm very proud of our sheriff's department overall, and the equipment and the training and all of those things that go into enforcing law. You mentioned that you started off as a prison guard and you kind of worked your way through those ranks. And it was quick. It was almost 2-year stints between the time you were a guard to the time you became a road deputy. That was about 3 years. Then you became a supervisor in the night shift. That was 2 years. A couple years later, you moved into investigations. And at this time, you're 27 years old.
Yeah.
Just amazing. When I was 27, you didn't want me investigating no crime. Believe me. Yeah. I was still figuring out life, but you were on a roll, and you mentioned Willie Graves and of course, historic sheriff here. And you helped develop that first SRT team. And then at some point you were promoted to chief deputy of operations. Major deal.
Yes.
What was that like?
It was a very rewarding time for me, but it was a sense of accomplishment, because in my career, in my focus, I just wanted to be an investigator.
Yeah.
And maybe a supervisor one day, maybe the chief detective one day, and that's where my vision was at.
Right.
And he seen something in me that was a little different. Yeah. And so he guided me in those right directions and gave me those opportunities. And it was right around Hurricane Katrina in 2005 that I think, and throughout your career, whenever you work, and, a lot of people say, how did you get noticed by your sheriff? And I said, well, I was a hard worker, and it takes you a little while, but then you go back, you start thinking. And somebody just the other day told a story that was the reason I became a supervisor on the street.
Yeah.
One story.
Yeah.
And it was pretty unique incident. So my supervisor actually was out that night, and he asked me to kind of take the reins or whatever. And I was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah,
He was just trying to make me feel good. He probably told everybody else the same thing.
Yeah.
But he did. He told me to do that, and I picked up a guy that was going to ride with me. Now he was reserve, and I think he had been riding maybe 1 or 2 nights. I picked him up on South Walker, and as we're coming up to the red light in Walker, they called in a shooting in progress, which at the time was the old Junior Food Mart. Now I think it's on the run.
Yeah.
Right at the red light across from Walgreens.
No, right where it's at.
They have a shooting. Suspects hit 190 and headed east toward Livingston. Well, I'm right there.
Yeah.
So I get, and there happens to be a volunteer fireman that's following them. So as he's calling in his location, it goes to dispatch because he's on the phone with them.
Right.
And then they're telling me over the radio, and we're about a mile behind these guys the whole time.
Yeah.
It's 4 black guys,
Yeah.
and they ran the plate, called it in somewhere out of Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
We've identified as the shooters.
Yeah.
We follow them up. They get up to Walker North, right past Springfield Road. First house on the left, they pull in the driveway. We get a 911 call. They're trying to break in the door of this lady who's home by herself with her kids. As I pass this residence, and I pass it on purpose because I can see them to kind of get a lay of the land.
Yep.
One of them's at the door, just like she said, and there's 3 standing in the yard. One of them has a gun in his hand. And I turn around and come back with, okay, we fixing to get into a shootout here.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of funny because the guy was riding with me and tried to grab my shotgun. I said, no, sir, that's mine.
Yeah.
You take this guy. I got the shotgun. But anyway, we drove up. The guys hit the woods. I set up a perimeter. Went on for about 4 hours. We wound up catching all 4 of them.
Yeah.
And I remember the sheriff coming out there and keeping in touch with me every night. And wasn't long after that he promoted me. I'm telling that story because it wasn't long after Hurricane Katrina where he recognized something.
Yes.
And we've been through a lot of disasters, and it's just something I have figured out how to run those and how to keep our parish safe.
Right.
And so it wasn't long after that he told me, he said, look, I want you to come to courthouse and administrative, and I'll kind of be just an assistant. This is before he actually promoted me.
Yeah.
So that I told you earlier, I've always learned by fire, right?
Right.
So just imagine you're basically running an SRT team most of the time and training deputies. The next day you're at the office in a suit and tie. And 2 days later, he tells you, okay, the news media will be here in a minute. You're the new public information officer as well.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay. So you just had to learn. I'm sure some of those interviews were horrible.
Right.
But I had to learn how to do that. And then, of course, in 06, which is short distance later, it was actually January 06, he brought me in and said, hey, you're the new chief of operations.
Wow.
And so that's where my career in my administrative started at that moment. So, and then we had Hurricane Gustav, and right after Gustav is when he promoted me to chief deputy.
Yeah. Yeah. Second in command of the entire sheriff's office.
That's
How
right.
old were you at that point?
34 maybe.
Wow.
I was 38 when I ran for sheriff, so I think I was chief deputy for about 3 years, maybe 4.
Yeah.
So, and that was right after I went to the FBI National Academy and graduated, came out. We had Gustav hit right when I got back, and that's where I got the vision for our new training center.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know the story, but during Gustav, we have a detention center that has 647 beds. We had just completed it.
Yeah.
No inmates had moved in yet.
Yeah.
So Gustav hits, and, of course, this is devastating our parish and all around us. So we became a hub. So immediately we started housing first responders in this detention center.
Yeah.
And we wound up with 600 staying in this detention center. And during that time frame, I remember having that conversation with the sheriff and a couple other people saying, we need something like that. We need like a rescue center. And so I started working on that year after year after year, and Garrett Graves, Cassidy, and it just kept following through.
Wow.
And so in 2019, sat down with Jamie Felder, who was my CPA at the time, and said, look, we got to make this happen. She said, well, you can afford to bond some money. We're just going to have to tighten some things up, and may not be able to give, pay raises for a little while, but, we need this facility. So I prayed about it like I do everything, and said, what, we're going to do this. So we went through the architect work or what have you. We basically designed a $12 million building.
Yeah.
Okay. Jamie's like, well, I hate to break it to you, but you can probably afford about $8 million.
Right.
And I was like, okay. So we bonded about, I think it was 8.5.
Yeah.
And we bonded the money. And so we get ready to send it out for bid. And whenever we get ready to send it out for bid, this is in March of 2020.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that date, March of 2020.
Yeah.
COVID hit.
World stopped.
Yep. So COVID hits. Of course, these contractors are pushing back. We don't know what this is going to be. Nobody did, right? The first couple of months, we had no clue what we were dealing with. And so just I had this gut feeling, and Jamie and I kept talking, said, we need to push this through. Let's just go with it. And we did. Yeah. And lo and behold, the low bid comes back at 5.2. And we're like,
hey,
whoa, what? Hey, hate it for the contractors, but this is really good for the sheriff's office. Yeah. And so,
and the citizens. Yeah.
And the citizens, right. So we move forward, and this company starts working on it, and then we start moving forward this training facility. And, and during COVID, because we didn't know a whole lot, there's some things that we needed to do. And so one thing that I have figured out, and along with some of my staff, is FEMA is probably the most aggravating people in the world to have to deal with.
Sure.
But once you learn them, and once you know what they expect, and you can communicate with them, you can actually get a little bit better roadmap and paint a better picture. So what we did at that time was, it was important for us to set up like eateries for these deputies, because what I didn't know was, if Jim's my deputy and you go take a call at this house, we don't know what this pandemic is yet.
Yeah.
Are you going to get something on a uniform? Are you going to bring it back to your family? So we said, okay, maybe we set up some eateries and stuff. So we did. So we called a lot of mom and pop restaurants throughout our parish, and we set up an account with them and told these deputies, look, I'm going to feed you 3 meals a day. I don't want you to go home and get a sandwich. I don't want you to go home with all your family. I want you to stay on the road. I want you to, take your calls, and we're going to have these eateries set up. And of course, there's an amount, like you can't be over $8.
Yeah.
But we set these up, with Duke's and Don Seafood, Children's Grocery, G&J's in Livingston. There's several other little mom and pop restaurants. And I just wanted to make sure that, we were doing the right thing. Beyond that, I called Scooter King and I said, look, if I get these deputies to come to my training facility and they, take showers there and they take the uniforms, can you, clean them every day and bring them back? He said, absolutely. So I did all this stuff and we documented it. And there was a lot of other things that we had to keep documenting. We stayed in touch with FEMA. Well, come around 2021, very unexpected, we get a check.
Yeah.
$12 million.
All right.
And we had no clue we were getting it. And it was like, whoa, wow,
Yeah. So, I get $20 in the mail I didn't expect. I'm jumping up and down. I can't imagine that.
And look, I give kudos to my staff because they work really hard with that. And we had a good plan and we thought about it. We did everything we could. And there was a lot of things that came up, during COVID, a lot of different challenges, a lot of these things that, people were dealing with these businesses. And I'm glad we were able to help them.
You helped them. You probably kept a lot of them in business and kept them from going out of business.
I know Scooter King has told me a couple of times that, thank you, would have never survived if you wouldn't have did what you did. And honestly, sitting here today, that wasn't my plan to keep businesses going. I'm not going to try to take credit, but it was when you have a vision and you have a plan, you follow those kind of things, and you pray about stuff, you're going to be led in the right direction, and that's what we did.
Yes.
And we were blessed, and other people were blessed during that time frame.
Absolutely.
When a lot of businesses shut down, closed, and never reopened, we were able to keep businesses open. And, it was a great thing to be able to do that.
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head when you said, we really didn't know back then exactly. We had no idea if I breathe on this person, am I going to kill him? We didn't know that. And so everything was on the fly. And you, being over the sheriff's office, one employee could get the entire sheriff's office sick, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's all these considerations. I could not imagine. And when I think back on, when I was diving into your career, one thing that I can honestly say is there's just about nothing you haven't experienced from the 2016 flood to COVID to all the other storms, ice storms, you name it. You've been through it. That's a huge thing because now you know how to react to it and all of those sorts of things. That's very, very important to me, and I'm sure very important to anybody who is looking for someone to lead whatever it is, whether it's a business, a sheriff's office.
Right.
There's just not a whole lot you hadn't experienced.
Unfortunately, no.
I mean, it absolutely runs the gamut, and it's impressive.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's probably the most challenging that I've dealt with. The two top things that I've dealt with that was the most challenging was the flood and probably COVID, because COVID, again, it was just one of those things that wasn't obviously wasn't expected. Didn't really know a whole lot. I wasn't a fan of the mask. Yeah. I remember kind of being looked down upon by some state people whenever they came to the office, and all of them had masks on but me at a press conference. Just didn't, I said, look, man, how's this little mask going to keep me from doing anything? Yeah. And really and truly at the time, give me COVID so I can get it over with, right? Because we first found out, well, if you get COVID, then you're done with it.
Yep.
And then was it a year later, we found out, well, you could get it twice.
Yeah.
And then there's different variations of it. But it was just one of those things, and I was proud of our parish at that time.
Yeah.
Because of the unknown, but we were able to stay afloat and be able to continue to see because there was a lot of businesses struggling during that time.
Yeah, there was.
But I was glad to see that people try to keep them busy, and we had to learn how to do things differently.
That's right.
And came out on top at the end.
You sure did, and I want to talk about just quickly some some certifications and things that you've received over the years that, and this is something important to mention, folks. If you want to look at the full list, because let me tell you, it's like the Dead Sea Scrolls. He's got a lot of certifications, awards, training certificates, and all these sorts of things, as you would expect on a 30-year career. But there's a few I highlighted that I did want to mention and talk about. One of them that really spoke to me, and primarily because I'm also a graduate of this program, was Leadership Livingston. You're a supporter of business. Mm-hmm. the Chamber of Commerce does some really great things for our community, and you were a Leadership Livingston graduate and probably saw parts of this parish you didn't even know, even as share. Well, you probably knew they existed, but most of us didn't.
Surprisingly, I didn't know all of it.
Yeah.
And it was very, I don't know, I really enjoyed Leadership Livingston.
Yeah,
was actually the first class I got to go through, and it was kind of funny because Leighton Ricks and myself was kind of newly elected.
Yeah.
So we had a competition who would go to the most classes kind of deal. But, the field trips and seeing like the original courthouse in Springfield was a big thing for me. And I knew it was there. And I know back when I worked the streets, I probably went by it a couple of times.
Sure.
But you forget about little things like that. And then some of the businesses that would come and speak and some of the leadership here in the parish was really entertaining to me.
Yeah.
And not only that, I love the network of it. And since then, I became a really good partner with the chamber.
You really have.
And they've been good friends of me. And so, although my golf tournament is better than theirs.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
I was at both.
They have a really good golf tournament too. And they put on some really good educational classes, and some of their leadership classes are really good.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And incidentally, Leighton Ricks did a podcast with him just a few days ago, and he, one of the things that he went out of his way to credit was how working with you during these disasters, because you work closely with him during those, really was a benefit for him, and he was very complimentary of you for that, as I expected. But we'll move on a little bit to some of your certifications. He didn't even mention this one, but Denham Springs Kiwanis Club Peace Officer of the Year in 2000.
Oh, wow.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
That's as I say, back in the gap a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I was very honored to receive that award. And I was actually a detective at the time. Yeah. And that was right before I moved into the training center. And I still remember the state trooper was O'Neill Wascom that got along with me, and the Denham Springs police officer was Paul Goldman, who actually worked for me as one of my school resource officers. Yep. So I seen that picture not long ago.
Wow, very good. Well, 2005 Lake Charles Police Department Gratitude Award for assistance during Hurricane Rita. This one spoke to me, and I'm going to tell you why. 2016, we flooded like everybody else around us, and ended up on Highway 16 right there by Carter's Grocery and all that, and 1,000 other people on that road, and we're on an island. You can't get in or out. And after a few days, we started seeing law enforcement, but it was from all over the state of Louisiana. And Carter's, fortunately, could still open and close. They were, limited on what they could do, but God bless them, because they were going to make it happen as far as people being able to get food. One day I talked to one of the officers. I went over there, and he was from Lake Charles, marked unit. And I said, man, y'all must be making a ton of money coming all the way out here, protecting us. And look, they were looting everywhere. You know how it was.
Right.
And he said, oh man, we're down here because we want to be. And I'm going to tell you, that touched me. And you're the same way. As a matter of fact, so much so that you were honored with that gratitude award from the Lake Charles Police Department for your work during Hurricane Rita. That's a big deal, man. That's
that's just what we did. And it was crazy because we've been all over. There's usually not a disaster in Louisiana from probably 95, 97 till today that I hadn't been boots on the ground anywhere in Louisiana. In some cases, Texas and Florida, because, you go help those that need help because they help us.
Yes.
And so
it's a brotherhood.
It is. It's definitely a brotherhood. And the flood was crazy, but I can remember it like it was yesterday. Whenever the Friday, it got to be that evening, every single person that was with the ability to drive was gone from our train. That's when we had a double wide trailer, and I was sitting on the porch of it. I was the only person there because everybody else was out rescuing. So we had to have somebody stay at the center. Of course, I'm on the phone trying to make sure we can get military. I mean, I see this been watching it all morning, that Friday morning, and seeing this Mother Nature just wreak havoc upon us.
Yes.
And so I'm sitting there and just, God, I don't know what we're going to do. All the deputies I got volunteers showing up, and they're like, I don't have a boat. And I just said, look, go here. And I'm sure somebody will be there with a boat, just rescue people.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. Our community just came together. But it was right before dark, and I see this truck coming up the driveway. It's not marked, and it's got a little bat toe on the back of it. And these 4 guys get out, and they said, hey, Sheriff, how are you today? I said, well, I've been better. They said, well, we're, and I can't remember the deputy's name, and I should, but they said, we're from Livingston Parish.
Yeah.
And we came down here to help you.
Wow.
And I said, okay. He said, yeah, we worked all night. I said, well, I don't really have any words for you to sleep, but I can probably get you some cots over here or whatever. He said, no, sir, we didn't come to sleep. We came to work.
Ooh, I love that.
Oh, look,
just got goosebumps.
So, I know, I get it.
Wow.
So 5 days later, I see these guys again, and they've been just like me. They hadn't had any sleep.
Yeah.
And every now and then their sheriff would call and check on them. And so that's what inspired me to run for the association president.
Yeah.
And I've had people, some of my peers, some of my buddy sheriffs, like, you ought to run, you ought to do this. And I'm like, I'd rather just be right here in Livingston where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
They did so much for us, and I don't think there was an agency in Louisiana that wasn't here in Livingston Parish, either Livingston or some in East Baton Rouge, but they were here in our parish protecting and serving our community. How could I not give back? And the only way I could give back was to maybe do that. So I ran for, it's actually Sergeant of Arms. I won the election. I was voted in by the other 63 sheriffs, and every year they give you a grade and they actually let you go to the next position until you ultimately become the president.
Yeah.
And of course, Jason Art has the best luck in the world. If everybody wants to know the year I was a president, it was 2020 and 2021. But it was the experience that I have gained. I didn't realize that I would be able to give back the way I did. And lo and behold, I took office, actually swore in 2020, July of 2020. And if everybody remembers, the biggest hurricane, Laura, hits Lake Charles like a month later.
Yeah.
And so I'm the president, and it just took out, Cameron Parish and Calcasieu Parish, and just goes all the way up to Arkansas. Yeah. And it was so, I guess, rewarding to me to be able to give back to those sheriffs. And after all this is said and done and the smoke's kind of cleared up, I was getting interviewed by the secretary at the association, and she said, "So, Sheriff, what is your goal as the president this year?" I said, "My goal's done. You can send me to the house." I wanted to do for them what they done for me, and I got to accomplish that in the first month.
Yeah,
and it was very emotional time for me because that's what I wanted to give back, and that was my expertise. I said I can handle any disaster, and so to be able to help my fellow sheriffs, to guide them with, some of our expertise with dealing with FEMA, and those type of deals. And one of the biggest things that happened, I think it was 2 days before, was everybody remembers the flood and me going out, and I actually kind of got in a little bit of a spat with FEMA over some trailers.
Yeah.
For my deputies.
Yeah,
I think I bought like 35 to 40 trailers for these deputies to house them, and followed their guidelines. And at the end, they told me, you have to just keep waiting. I said, I'm not waiting. We're going to move forward, and I'll go through the proper process. I know what I'm doing is right. And, of course, they fought us for years on getting us reimbursement. And then they realized somewhere along the way that they're going to have to somehow give me reimbursement. Well, my hat's off to Garrett Graves because he worked really hard on this as well. Sure did. And so right when that hurricane hit, we received our check.
Yeah.
And not only did he help us get that, but he also changed the law.
Yeah.
To where we can, us and leaders in law enforcement, your sheriffs, your chief, we can make those decisions.
As you should.
Based on, the safety of our deputies and the safety of our community. So to be able to get that and have that law changed and be able to put that stuff into place and into play during that hurricane, while these agencies were going through so much, it was really rewarding to know that we have actually changed the game for them to be able to get them. Look, the only thing that I was focused on is I didn't want these deputies to leave.
Right.
You know, I didn't want another Hurricane Katrina. I mean, I have a lot of people here from St. Bernard.
Yeah.
And it's because they lost everything.
Sure.
And I have some deputies here that work for St. Bernard Sheriff's Office, some of the best deputies I have. Yeah. And I just didn't want that to happen here in Livingston. You know, we have something special here. I love my community. I love what we do. And so all that came to play. And again, you know, if you're doing what God calls you to do, you know, Jim, this is what happens.
That's right.
And it was just amazing to be able to turn around and have us bless communities that turn around and blessed us. I
agree 100%. Livingston Parish Public Schools, they actually awarded you in 2017 for outstanding service and dedication to those local area schools. And just quickly on that, you know, you've kept our schools safe, in my opinion. We thank God we haven't had these issues that, you know, nationally that people see.
Right.
And you've done a good job of that. We have SROs in our schools, and look, I put 3 kids through public school, and of course, as parents, we're all parents, including you,
right.
And we send our kids off, and you know, you hope and pray every day that nothing horrible with relation to your schools happen, but you kept them safe, and you got awarded for it.
Yeah. Well, in 2012, the first thing that I did after I became sheriff was bring our first school resource officer to the sheriff's office. And he actually still works here today. His name was Aaron Bond. He was actually an East Baton Rouge deputy. And I brought him over here and put him in the Watson area. And Jimmy, let me get the name right, John Watson, his brother is the mayor, which is Jimmy Watson.
Yes.
I call him Jimmy Durbin every now and then. He gets mad at me. So John was a superintendent, and he and I sat down, and we came up with an agreement to split the salary, and bring the first school resource officer in, and that kind of built where we are today. We actually now have 16 in our schools, and 2 of those are Dillon Springs Police Department. Yeah. And my hat's off to George Landry. I believed in the program too, and at the time it was Chief Walmack, I believe, and so. We and I think they already had a school resource officer whenever we started, so they were kind of ahead of the ball game. Yeah. And so anyway, it was really good to bring them. But what I really wanted the school resource officer to do, it wasn't necessarily a safety thing. Of course, that comes natural.
Sure.
But it's also how can we get in these schools and kind of mentor these kids. And we've seen so many stories where I've had deputies have maybe some unruly kids that for some reason were attracted to that uniform, and these guys, I've stories of them helping these kids read and staying after and making sure their reading comes up, their grades get better. And also identifying bullying or victims of bullying and building that relationship with your kids where they can report crime or you know, drug use. So unfortunately, we have some of that in the schools. Yeah. And so those were kind of my goal and what I was trying to accomplish. Well, like you said earlier, I've had 2 kids graduate the public school system here. Yeah. Both of my kids graduated Walker. And when some of those school shootings were going down, and at the time I tried to actually pass a tax, and nobody likes to hear about that, but it's true. I mean, my vision was, we need to get a deputy in every school. Yeah. I have a daughter going to school right now, and when I pass by that school, which after them shootings, I pass by that school every day. Yeah. Yeah. I made sure I passed by there and looked to see her vehicle, and what I would see when I would see a Walker officer at that school made me feel better.
Yes.
And so I said, we got to do more. And that was my inspiration. And of course, the people spoke. That isn't what they wanted to do, but they still wanted us to do something. And so we just went back to the drawing board, said we come up with another plan, approached the school system, and said, look, if y'all go in half, I'm willing to do 60-40, and let's put some money aside in a budget, and let's create a school security detail where these deputies are off of work, and they can actually go sit at the school, watch over our school. They can actually stay in touch with what's going on in our court system. And a lot of people don't understand this, but every day when we have family court, and there's the custody battle over kids, sometimes there's confrontation in the courtroom that winds up in front of the principal somewhere on our campus, and which becomes very dangerous.
Yes.
And so you don't want to get between a father and his kids, and you don't want to get between a mother and their kids.
Yeah.
And so we're usually those people. And so those kind of things happen. So looking at all that, we created this program, and it just took off. I've been very fortunate because I think I have, the number is 22 new reserves, and most of them came from Baton Rouge City that actually were retiring, very capable, and came over here and they worked at school detail. So I got really highly trained guys.
Yeah.
And it worked out. And so now on any given day, you probably have anywhere between 30 or 40 deputies watching our schools. Now, a lot of people don't understand the makeup of our school system. We have 52 sites.
Yes.
47 with kids every day. That's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
And to be able to ride around this parish and see these units at these schools, I don't want these kids to feel like they're in prison.
Right.
But I want them to feel, and the parents to feel that their kids are safe and they can focus on getting their education.
Yeah.
And look, nothing's 100%. I'm not sitting here telling you we 100% got your kids covered, because I would just be lying. Sure. But 90%, we got it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that, we're doing the best we can. And
Yeah.
and you just can't predict human behavior.
That's
if
right.
we could, we wouldn't have any incidents.
That's right.
So anyway, I'm very proud to be able to have a partnership with the school system. And one of the things that we didn't realize we would be able to do was truancy is a problem.
Yeah.
And the school system's constantly trying to get us to help them. And it's just, from personnel issues on our side to their side. But we didn't realize that doing this would give us extra funds, because obviously we can't put, we hadn't been able to have 50 deputies every day.
Sure.
But it's actually we budgeted for that. So now we're able to actually pay these school resource officers, when they get off of work, extra duty to go out and do these truancy compliance checks.
Good.
And we've seen a huge change already in our attendance with these children.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. So
That's right.
I'm glad to have that partnership with our school system. They want what's best for our kids as well, and I just want to focus on their safety, and try to make sure we create a school system that is not only a good education, but it's safe, safe campus, a safe place to go to school and get your education. Not have to worry about what's going on, in the neighborhood next door and that kind of stuff. So I think we have a good plan in place, and it's working, and I hope it continues to work.
I agree 100%. And we'll move on. And one thing with you was you've got a lot of training with the FBI. Mm-hmm. Good. I would imagine their courses are pretty good. As a matter of fact, you've done a lot of leadership training with them. You were an FBI National Academy graduate back in 2008. Mm-hmm. U.S. Department of Justice anti-terrorism training, something you wouldn't think you would have an issue with here in Livingston Parish, and maybe that's because you've got some training in that area. But got that in 2012. FBI Academy Law Enforcement Executive Training, 2014. Homeland Security Training, Tactical Operations in 2015. So I told y'all it was like the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it is. Just a lot of certifications, a lot of training, and experience matters. Experience is important. Leaders, people that are leading your organization, their subordinates underneath them are looking for that. They're looking for someone that knows how to lead, and those certifications will get you there. You were president of the Louisiana Sheriff's Association, as we mentioned, from July of 2020 to July of 2021. Mm-hmm. So you're even, in a manner of speaking, leading other sheriffs and, in that organization, and committing of your time and all those sorts of things. Board member, I liked this one, for the Louisiana Association of Challenged Adults in Walker. Mm-hmm. Great organization.
It is a great organization. Great families are involved in that, and anything we can do to help our community. And it takes, I got a lot of boards that I serve on. I try to do the best I can. You can't serve on them all, but there's some that actually really touch my heart, and I want to do everything I can to try to help them out.
100%. Lifetime member of the NRA.
Well,
love that.
Hell yeah.
Look, my grandfather told me a long time ago, he said, give to two organizations, and you actually give to both of them. The NRA, never always support the NRA, and always support St. Jude. And you do both of those as well. As a matter of fact, chipping in for St. Jude, you're a sponsor for that.
Right.
And you help with that. But I want to talk about the Christmas Crusade for a second. Big deal.
It is. Christmas Crusade is a huge deal, and it's been around for many, many years. It actually was started under Sheriff Odom Graves and carried on by Sheriff Woody Graves. And then, of course, we carried on that tradition because it's such an impact to our community. A lot of people really don't understand what impact it is. But there's a lot of families every year that would not have Christmas if it wasn't for this program.
Yeah.
And we're linked up with a lot of our churches and a lot of other nonprofit organizations. I know Mighty Moms is kind of the partner with us in some of those. And it's just something that we like to do. And unfortunately, in our line of business, we don't get to do a lot of positive stuff sometimes.
Sure.
Other than in people's eyes, we get to chase the bad guys and put them in jail and bring justice. And that's what our job is. But these deputies see so many bad things.
Amen.
And there's so many families that are suffering, and these deputies go in these homes, and Christmas time is a big thing for them. Yeah. And if you've never followed us, I want you to please go back and look in the past of what we've done for this community with the Christmas Crusade. But what I want you to focus on is we have some pictures of the day we deliver these toys, and look at the units, and the vehicles. Them are deputies that are off duty.
Yes.
Coming out to be able to deliver these toys to these families. And just so you know how many, it's anywhere from between 400 to 600, normally on average about 600 families, 600 locations that we're going to be at that morning. And we usually have everything delivered between 7 and 12 o'clock.
Wow.
Okay, so in about a 6-hour period. And it's just so, it's just a great day. Yeah. But it also is something that we work on. This is not something we work on for 2 weeks. This is a year-round process. And my wife, Erica, masterminds this program. And she, we were talking about it yesterday. She, we need to have a meeting. And, of course, I'm in the middle of an election, and I'm still the sheriff. And I'm like, okay, I'll make time. But really and truly, it takes a lot of time. So we have an average of about between 1,200 and 1,600 kids that we have to shop for. So her and I do our Christmas very early, because we don't have time to Christmas shop once Crusade starts, and it starts now. Yeah. And she's already pre-ordering, talking to different local businesses and trying to get our toys ordered. And it was kind of funny, is every year she sends out an email. She just sent it out about 2 weeks ago, asking parents, because now my kids, I have one married. Yeah. And he just gave me my first grandchild, a little boy named Miles. All right. Very happy. He came home a couple of weeks ago. He was premature, but he's doing great. He's healthy. Yeah. He's born with more hair than me. Yeah. A lot more hair than you.
Yeah, definitely.
But he's a beautiful, beautiful kid. And my daughter will be graduating Southeastern in December. She wanted to go an extra semester because it's cheap for her, right? No fun intended for dad. So, but anyway.
I get that. Believe me. Yeah.
So our kids are older. And so she sends out this email to all the deputies that have kids. And, hey, what's the hot item? Yeah. Like, what is your kids wanting for Christmas? And it's important for us to know that, because I don't want Jim Chapman's kids not to have what the neighbors' kids have. Yeah. We need to know what's important. Sure. So she keeps up with all that stuff, and then, pre-ordering for that many kids. And then so the Saturday after Thanksgiving, it will be at all 3 Walmart locations. We'll be at Bass Pro, taking monetary donations and new toys. And it kind of starts a process, and then people come in and they actually apply for the program. And then that takes about a 2-week process there, and then it takes another week to bag the toys. And it's just amazing to see. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but you need to see it. It's amazing to see. It's like a little miniature Walmart. And they work, they work 16, 18 hours a day bagging these toys to get it ready. And then we pick the Friday. Usually it's a Friday, and then we all show up and they deliver these toys. That's the best ones are the deputies come in and they say, hey, look, last night I had to arrest this guy, and he had a family. They're needy. We want to bring the kid. I want to bring those toys to those kids. Yeah. Because the deputy knows these kids maybe seen him in a bad light. Right. And it gives them an opportunity to go back and say, look, I'm not such a bad guy. What have you, and that really is rewarding to me. Yeah. To see that, and the only story that I like to tell, because I try to be real private with people's personal lives, so I don't want to put their business on the street. But the most rewarding time for me was my wife had this little girl come in with her mom. I think she was about either 7 or 9 in that age. And she looked at the little girl and said, "What do you want Santa Claus to bring you for Christmas?" And she said, the little girl just kind of looked around, and she said, she leaned over, and her mom sitting beside her, she kind of whispered, she goes, "If he would just bring my mom a Christmas tree, it would be the best Christmas ever." Obviously, we went and bought a Christmas tree, right? Yeah. And wow. But those are the type of people you're helping. It's like these kids understand that, you know, mama can't afford this, and they even putting mom before them.
Sure.
So those are the kind of people you're helping. Yeah. And it's just a great program, and we could not do that program, Jim, if it wasn't for these businesses in this parish, the citizens of this parish. They keep that program ticking, because all that is stuff, money that we raised. And every now and then we'll do a fundraiser, but normally we don't have to do a fundraiser for Crusade.
Yeah. No.
We get that many donations, and people believe in the program, and it's just rewarding to be able to do that.
It really is, and it also, you know, I've given where I could for many years to that program, and one thing that I really enjoy doing from a citizen perspective is interacting with the deputies during that time, and they're at all the Walmarts and several other locations in the area. So check that out. And you mentioned, you mentioned college. Look, I got 3 girls at LSU. Well, 2 girls and a boy at LSU, and it ain't cheap.
No, it's not.
And you have a program, a scholarship that you offer. That's a huge deal.
It is. You know, it was the inspiration for that is the Louisiana Sheriff's Association gives away a scholarship.
Yep.
Each sheriff gets a $500 scholarship to give to one student in the parish. We have a lot of students here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you know, $500 one scholarship, we need to do more. Yeah. So I kind of started a scholarship fund, and it actually kind of took off. And so we've been able to give a whole lot more. I don't even know what the number is, but a lot more scholarships. And I think we average probably 10 or 15 a year. We have so many talented kids here. Yeah. And we have so many that get great scholarships. And you know, every now and then you'll have one. There's a few success stories where, you know, my grandmother's raising me, and, you know, I'm a hard worker. I have 2 jobs, but I'm going to college and I just need a little help. And to be able to give those scholarships, and then, you know, hear from that kid 2 or 3 years later, they're still in college, they're fixing to graduate to become nurses. Yeah. And you just had a little small, you know, portion in there that you just kind of helped them. And so that was the inspiration behind it. And I just couldn't sleep at night knowing we gave one scholarship to these kids. And look, God bless the Sheriff's Association. You know, they have 64 sheriffs to try to, you know, put this money toward.
Sure.
So, but we just have so many giving people here in our parish too.
Yeah, we really do. And just another example of your community involvement and all of those sorts of things. And that's important for a sheriff's office to maintain in touch with that community. You've done a great job of that over the years, and have been accessible, which is important.
Yes.
And your deputies also accessible. You mentioned your children. Of course, you and your wife, Erica, you have 2 children, Abigail and Toby.
Right.
And when you run for office, which, you know, one thing about your job is it's different than, say, my job. I don't have to be reelected every 4 years. Right, you know, you do. And when you run for office, it means your family's kind of also running for office, right?
Yep.
Everybody's got to buy in. Everybody's got to be on board.
It's something. It's a lot on the family, and but you have to have their support. And Erica's always supported my decisions. Well, I won't say she always supported my decisions.
She went along,
but no,
anyway.
she always stood beside me. And you know, she's a wife, and the kids. They were kind of young when we started out, but they are very, you know, proud to be involved, and they love the sheriff's office like anybody else. And they've kind of been brought up in the political world. So to speak, and so it's really nice to have a family that believes in you and understands what your mission is.
It really is, and you mentioned your faith earlier, and I want to talk about that for a second. Now, how critical would you say your faith in God has been in your success? You know, you mentioned you're in law enforcement. And you see a lot of bad things. Faith's an important part of that, right?
It really is. You know, look, I've always believed that, you know, Christianity is obviously a sign of hope.
Yeah.
And so if you look at our units, we actually have a badge number on it, and a lot of people think it's the deputy's badge. It's 13-4.
Yeah.
Well, 13-4 is actually Romans 13-4.
Yeah.
And in that verse, it tells you how we are servants of God, and we protect you from the wrongdoers.
Yeah.
But we are God's servant first. And I really believe in that, and I believe that we are just not far off of a pastor, okay? But let me explain that. They deal with a lot of stuff, and they have opportunities just like we do in law enforcement. But normally when we deal with people, they're at their bottom.
Yeah.
And I feel like that we have an opportunity to change a life if, whenever we get to a scene. I mean, we're in the middle of people's family affairs when it comes to they're going through a divorce or civil issues and all this kind of stuff. So it's really, to me, rewarding to be able to maybe turn someone to that and to having faith. And I've just always, I was brought up that way. And in the old story, they say your grandma drug you to church. And yes, I was drugged to church every day. And I remember I went to Satsuma Baptist with my grandmother, and if you didn't act right, she'd have make you pick your switch and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But it was just something that I was brought up in. I was brought up in a Southern Baptist family, and we are now members of Live Oak Church. It used to be Live Oak Methodist, now it's Live Oak Church. And Eric and I was married there, and I've been baptized. I was actually baptized at Beech Ridge Baptist Church, which is on 63. I don't think it's called Beech Ridge anymore, and it's over kind of North Walker, North Livingston area.
Yeah.
And so look, it's in what we do every day. I make a lot of decisions.
Sure.
And some of these, in all our decisions, mostly affect people's lives. And when you have to make a decision on maybe what to do with a deputy that has done something against policy, he's even maybe broken the law, whatever, you have to pray about those decisions.
Yeah.
And my decisions are going to be prayed about.
Yeah.
And I always ask God, I said, look, please treat me like an idiot.
Yeah.
Slap me, get my attention, something, make sure that I'm making the right decision here. And because if I can't sleep at night, I know I didn't make the right decision.
Right.
Right. And you got to have a peace with that. And I just believe that I'm here because God wanted me to be here. Yeah. He's given me a lot of visions that I have continued to just like the training facility. That was a vision from a long time ago that came to pass. And I believe that you have those visions and you need to focus on them. So
I agree.
Look, I have no problem standing up for our country, standing up for God and family and our Constitution. I'm really big on that, and that's what we were founded on. And since we're on this topic, this is something that really bothers me.
Yeah.
We have a big election coming up. Mm-hmm. You got a lot of people going to have new seats, right? You have a lot of parish council seats that are vacant. Mm-hmm. You have room for a new parish president. Mm-hmm. Senators, representatives, we have a lot of those, okay? Hold them accountable.
Yeah.
They should stand up for God. They should stand up for our country. They should stand up for family values. They should stand up for our freedom of this country. And a lot of times they don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Ask those questions and make sure that that's what you're voting for. Because I'm telling you, we're in a time now that this country is in some trouble. And if you don't think the border's real, folks, it's real. We've seen it here in Livingston Parish. I mean, we've seen a population increase. We see in the drugs we're seeing on the street is not normal here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things going on here, and this is a very important time. So there'll be a lot of new people elected, except for you, Sheriff.
Yeah.
It'll be the same guy.
That's right.
That's been working hard and boots on the ground, and we're going to continue to do what we've always done here, and that is serve and protect this parish.
Yeah.
And keep this parish what it is, and a safe place to live, work, and raise your family.
That's right.
And so please hold your public officials accountable to that, because if you want somebody that's going to fight for your freedom and fight for the right things of what you believe in, you got to ask those questions and hold them accountable. And,
really
and that's one of the things. So I have no problem speaking about Jesus. I have no problem speaking about anything. And so I think that that's obviously what's going on in our society. And they ask, why things are happening the way they happen. And I said, well, you start taking prayer out of school, you start taking prayer out of this and prayer out of that.
Yeah.
These things happen.
I agree 100%. And I also agree with you in a very important election this go round.
It is.
And people really need to pay attention. And I'll just say this, don't look, social media for me, has been a good tool for business, bad tool for getting, inaccurate information, which there's a lot of it out there, and a lot of those keyboard warriors and folks of that nature. And, we don't even acknowledge, I don't even acknowledge them anymore. I learned just not to engage, which is hard. But I've learned. So, make sure you're making your own decision. Don't let somebody else make a decision for you or tell you something that is inaccurate. Make your own decision. Approach one of these candidates, whoever it may be, and ask them. They'll answer it. Whatever question you got.
Do your research.
Yeah, that's right. Great advice. And look, you've done a lot over your career. We've talked about it. 30 years. New 911 center. 2 new substations.
Right. We have one in Walker. Right. We have one in Walker. And we're in the process of building one on Tickfall River. Those Marine guys have never had anywhere to actually have an office. And so we're very proud to have that location. We actually even have a one of the slip areas for the Springfield Fire Department because they're on a river. And if you're not on a river in Livingston Parish, you're not understanding our waterways here. We have more navigable waterways in Livingston Parish than anywhere in Louisiana. Yeah. We have a huge water life.
Yes.
I mean, these boats on the weekends are just packed, and those Marine guys work every weekend, and day in and day out. And now it's getting even during the week, and it's becoming a big thing in that area. So a lot of people don't even realize what's going on down there, but there's a lot of people that do.
Sure.
There's a lot of traffic that comes on the water, and look, it's just not Livingston Parish. There's people from all over the state of Louisiana comes to those waterways, and a lot of them have vacation homes and retirement homes. On that water, and it's a lot of fun times on the water too. There are a lot of good eateries on the water, and so it was nice to be able to build that station. And I have 2 more that I'm working on that I want to be able to accomplish. I'd love to have us a substation somewhere around the French Settlement area, Marpaw. We need one down that way, and we also need one in the North Denham, Watson area. So those are my future projects that I'm focusing on. And of course, we have the one at the Walker building, which is a Walker Town Hall on the 3rd floor. And we kind of picked that because it was centrally located, and it gives us a little more room, and the deputies really are getting some good use out of it. So it's nice to be able to have those and be able to build upon what we're going to be doing here at the parish in the future.
Very good. And you just mentioned, you are a forward thinker, which I really like, and you're constantly advancing as technology advances. And look, for me, I just absolutely love this, so much so that I talked about it on another podcast that I do that is a global podcast. So you're worldwide famous now because I brought up the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office app that you just released that is my favorite. I probably told everybody I've ran into, you need to download the app. Man, it's just great because at the palm of your hands you have so much information in this robust app. And
we want to continue to grow on that app. And when we first released it, you got a lot of weather updates.
Well, we'll take those.
And the weather updates is what we kind of started with, and so now we actually doing our news releases, and we're actually in the process of training some of the dispatchers, because what I want to do is have that 24-hour coverage for people. And what I'm working toward is I want to know before I get on I-12 if the traffic's backed up or rerouted. If you go to your subdivision, there's 4 police cars there. You can look on the app and say, oh, were they there because they had this or this going on. Now, some stuff we can't put out, but I think if anything's a danger to your neighborhood or anything you should be concerned about, we need to be able to get more communication to our citizens. So that's kind of where that app's going, and it'll get bigger and better as we go. And so I think the big thing we're working toward, obviously, eventually we'll have another disaster, whether you like it or not, it's coming. And so we're just working those tools to be able to stay more in touch with our citizens, and I'm very proud of that app. It's just going to get bigger and better as we go.
I am too, and if you want to download that app, we'll link the download to the app in the description, and you can learn more about it. Download it. It'll keep you updated, and it's got so many features and tools that you'll find interesting. And just another example of forward thinking with the sheriff's department. I do want to get into a couple of other things before we wrap up. We've been going like an hour and 10 minutes, but look, I mean, 30 years, you can only do what you can do. One of the things that is really making the Facebook buzz right now is the breast cancer rap police unit.
Oh Lord, it wasn't supposed to get out yet.
Oh, it's out. Somebody saw it and put a picture out there. But let me tell you, everybody loves it. Yeah. And my wife has spent her entire life actually in breast cancer research. So I showed that to her and I said, tell all your friends.
Right.
So just a beautiful, neat little police unit that is pink and important.
It is, and so I love to point out where who needs the credit here, and so Chief Dufran, who's the police chief of Livingston, kind of started something last year with a fundraiser for the breast cancer awareness. Asked us to get involved, asked us to be a part of it, and I noticed he had like some pink badges. Yeah, had a few things put on his unit or whatever, and me, I'm like, we can do better than that. We want to do something big and better. So, of course, one of the things we don't want our taxpayer thinking, oh, you wasted all this money on this unit. Yeah. And we was able to get a sponsor. It was actually Baton Rouge General that sponsored this vehicle, helped us wrap it. And it's very pink.
Yeah.
Like maybe Pepto-Bismol pink.
Yeah, it'll catch your eye.
It'll catch your eye. But at the end of the day, it's about a good cause.
It really is.
And so we're getting ready to kind of start pushing that. You're gonna see it at some football games. I actually think that the Live Oak Denham game that's coming up next week, or maybe 2 Fridays, we'll actually be there. We're going to be giving out some pink rally towels. We're going to have our unit. And I think Livingston PD is going to have a few things on their unit. They're going to be there. You'll start seeing some deputies with some pink badges. I think I bought some of those for them. And so we encourage everybody to get involved in that, make a donation. We're going to actually have a QR code on that unit. You can actually, don't do this while you're driving, but you happen to be beside a red light and you're not driving, you're actually parked. You can scan it and actually make a donation.
Wow, that's awesome.
So those are the little things that we're trying to accomplish, and we want to make sure we do what's best. But I know there's a lot of people in this parish. I know I have some in my office that's actually dealt with breast cancer. Yeah. And so we just want to do what we can, because this community here in Livingston, we believe in giving back, and we believe in the cause. But you wouldn't believe how many people's family here has been touched by that. Yeah. And just like the St. Jude, I mean, we have a lot of kids in our parish that's been to St. Jude, and a lot of people don't understand how many. And you really, you hear about St. Jude, you understand St. Jude until you really hits home when you have somebody close to you that actually goes through that. And we've had several friends that actually been through that horrible probably process, but at the end of the day, you just hear St. Jude makes it so much better, and it just makes you feel so much better when you get there. And I've walked through St. Jude several times, and you talked about my faith and God and stuff. The only way you can, if you've never been to St. Jude, the only way I can describe it, have you ever walked into like a big church? That when you walk in, you feel the presence of God as soon as you enter the doors. That's what St. Jude's feels like. Yes. As soon as you walk in, there's so many miracles going on. You're just surrounded by it, and you can't help but feel it.
I agree 100%, and it'll change you. It'll change who you are just going through that facility and seeing those kids.
Yeah. Well, look, on the pink car, the unit will be out. Contact us if you have something going on. You want us to try to make it by your business. Look, this is for the whole month of October. Yeah. It's not no political scheme for me. We kind of planned this the whole year. We really want to give back. If anytime in October you want to do something, let us know. If we can fit you in, we will absolutely, come to your business. And that's what these guys are going to be doing. And it's a great outreach for our office to be able to get in the community and get involved.
Yeah, I agree. And so check that out We want to talk about, and as I said, that's kind of making its rounds on Facebook. May not be the official announcement, but somebody out there got
it's
it.
all good.
So in addition to that, when we brought up Facebook and how you got to be careful what you read and listen to, folks. And that's Jim Chapman saying this, not Sheriff Ford, but I see misinformation out there all the time on many different subjects and many different people. And I want to address those if that's okay with you, just a few of them. And one of them is let's talk about, there was a deputy that some misinformation from maybe a news source was being spread, and you want to address that a little bit? And
Sure. So it was a while back. We had a news station that actually came out and wanted to do a story, and it was about a deputy. And look, I mentioned the deputy's name only because he said, we can mention his name. And as Deputy Richard Foster, he worked for me. He works in our prison, and he was accused of a molestation of his kids. And so this news outlet actually came out and said, we want you to make a comment on this certain situation. And so I got with his attorney, which is Glenn Westmoreland, worked for Sherman Mack. And we make sure we explain this process was, my deputies investigated these allegations. It was unfounded.
Yeah.
The FBI investigated these accusations. It was unfounded. The Louisiana State Police investigated these accusations, and they're unfounded. So much so that the judge gave custody to these kids 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And in court because they had been coached by their mother.
Yeah.
And that was all said in open court. And so this was it was just one of them things. We gave all this information to them. This is not a story. And, you don't need to be mentioning this guy's name.
Yeah.
I don't like mentioning his name because he has kids.
Yeah.
With the same last name. And it's not hard for another kid to figure out who's who. And so I'm very protective of victims. I'm very protective of making sure we get justice. And sometimes the integrity of that case is what you're protecting, obviously. And I was very upset that they would do a story that had no meaning to it. And they knew this when they ran the story. Mm-hmm. So there was new allegations that came up during that time frame. I said, okay, we'll do it this way. How about the Louisiana State Police? We'll let them investigate it. I'm not going to touch it.
Yeah.
They did. Unfounded.
Yeah.
This guy has been a good deputy, and he's been a good father, and he has no reason to be going through this.
Yeah.
And however, sometimes fake news wants to paint a picture, and whatever falls in their narrative. And then if you watch that story, it was right before qualifying, and they wanted to bring in another deputy that was arrested years ago, almost 4 years ago, for accusations that he did. Yeah. And he deserved to be arrested. And we're talking about Mr. Perkins here, who not only was he arrested, but convicted basically life in prison. If I had it my way, he'd be buried under the prison.
Absolutely.
Obviously, we can't do that. Yeah. But, even in that situation, a lot of people wanted me to talk, wanted me to say certain things. Well, it's not my investigation. It was the Attorney General's investigation, which we helped with. Right. We worked alongside them. When they did the search warrant, we was there. We, received a lot of evidence that actually belonged to the sheriff's office. Yeah. Our guys went through that evidence, and we gave them a lot of evidence that was used in the prosecution, which at the end of the day really didn't have to, because he actually went ahead and pled and committed, said he was guilty, what have you, and now he's where he needs to be. So it was, to me, it's not even a story, but you doing all this for what?
Yeah.
This guy, if there was anything at all in the career when I was here that would have been brought to where he had any kind of criminal accusations, obviously to have been dealt with. But none of that was actually there. Right. And so I'm just very thankful that the AG's office was able to get what they got and move it forward, and we were able to investigate this guy and put him away. So, and back to the other deputy, it's a shame that they would do that. So, but I want the people that are listening to this to know this. There's anything ever comes through the sheriff's office, anything, any kind of complaint, we look at it. We're going to investigate it. And one of the things I always put before fake news and keyboard warriors, And I'm like you. I'm not going to get into a war with them because it's not what I do. But I am going to protect our victims. I'm going to protect their identity. I'm going to do whatever I can to protect the integrity of the case so we can get justice. And if I got to take a few bullets for that, I'll take it.
Yeah.
If I got to take the hits, I'll take it. And I know people say, well, you're not being transparent. Well, I am, but I also got to protect these victims. Right. I don't want their identification to get out. And look, we live in a world today where everybody has a cell phone, and it's so easy to figure out who Jim Chapman's kids are.
Yeah.
Just by your name.
Yeah.
And, you know, all our kids, they know who the parents are. And it just, look, we have enough bullying issues that we're dealing with in our schools and other things. So I'm going to protect those cases. And look, you go look at our track record. We've made some really good cases, and we're going to continue to do that. And look, my guys have done a lot. If you just talking about crime, $5 million of illegal narcotics taken off our street already. $5 million in illegal narcotics taken off of our streets here in Livingston. Another $20 million in stolen items returned to the citizens of Livingston Parish. That isn't because we letting grass grow under our feet, folks. It's because we work hard. We believe in what we're doing here. These deputies, they live here. Their kids go to school here. And I'm going to do everything I can to protect our kids, protect this parish, and keep it a safe place. We are not Baton Rouge. Look, I have great friends over there. I know a lot of business owners over there. That's even my supporters. And Baton Rouge is a good place, but they have an issue over there. They're having some serious crime problems. We don't have that here. Last year, I had 1 homicide. 1.
You hear that? 1, y'all.
Since I've been sheriff.
That's unbelievable.
Every year, I mean, we have 4 1 year. The most I've ever had in 1 year, I think, is 13, or might be 14, but I think it was 13 in 1 year.
Yeah.
Most of those are domestic related.
Yeah.
Some of them are going to be drug related shootings. And so we just don't deal with the gang violence and the things that other people are dealing with. And yes, we do have crime here. But most of it's going to be related to drugs and drug related crimes. And that's why we've created different divisions. We recently, when I took office, we created that burglary and theft unit because that's mostly what we deal with here. Mm-hmm. That is the top crime in Livingston Parish is burglary and theft.
Yeah.
Which is linked to drugs.
Sure.
Right? And so those guys work so hard. And look, I came up in a world when I was in investigations, I worked everything. I might work a forfeiture crime a forgery crime. I may work a homicide. I may work a burglary the next day. I may have to go deal with neighbors with a civil issue. I mean, we did everything. Yeah. And to be able to take these detectives now and they actually have expertise in domestic violence, expertise in drug cases, expertise in burglaries, expertise in homicide. And then we have the sex crimes. We have expertise in that to make sure that those detectives make good cases. And look, those cases aren't easy.
Yeah,
I talk about this quite frequently, and I just was talking about it yesterday with somebody. Those positions when it comes to sex crimes are usually the ones that burn out quicker than anybody.
Yeah,
they're having to look at images and things every day.
Yeah,
some of my IT guys. They signed up to be an IT person, right?
Right.
But they wound up helping investigate and dumping phones, and with that, there's images involving these crimes, and they're like, "Man, we ain't signed up for this."
Yeah,
I can't do this no more. I get it, but unfortunately, that's our job, and so you got to be careful. And so sometimes those cases are very difficult. They're always very difficult cases, and there's times where you're relying on a 4-year-old with no physical evidence to convict someone that's maybe 30 or 40 years old.
Wow.
And it's stressful because he did it. And all you have is that kid's testimony.
Yeah.
And now you got to try to put something together that may have happened when they were 2 years old.
Right.
Or you have somebody that came in from 30 years ago, they were a victim of this. So them cases are very difficult. But if you look at it, we've made some of those cases that have been very challenging. We've made some really good cases and have some really good prosecutions. I have 291 sex offenders that live in Livingston Parish. 291. 5 of them is kind of what I call ITW in the win.
Yeah.
They have warrants on them. We can't find them.
Yeah.
We will. And so I get more complaints from those 291 people, one of my guys, than any other division in the office.
Imagine that.
Because we keep them in compliance. Mm-hmm. If they don't change their address within 24 hours of them moving, they're going to jail.
Yeah.
And they don't like it.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, you was convicted in court. You now have to follow the rules, and those rules for you is a law.
Yeah.
And so those are the kind of things that we take all that serious. And so, and I've said this and I'll say it again, Jim, I will put my deputies, 358, up against anybody when it comes to investigations, fighting crime, and just serving the community.
Yeah.
They're good at what they do. They believe in what they do. And obviously I have my 10 or 15% that can be teenagers sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Headaches.
Yeah. Who?
but they believe in serving their community. I think I know we do a good job with that. I have a great administration team I'm surrounding myself with. And I know that what we do is good things. You know, we're not perfect. We're not. But I encourage everybody to call me if they have a complaint. I call everybody back. Sometimes I get really busy. I may not call you back for a week, but you're going to talk to somebody that's going to be handling that situation as soon as you call.
Yeah.
And those are the things that we have in place. And so we take everything very serious. We always have. You can look at our stats. We have we get our bad guy, and to be able to sit here and tell you my entire career, we have since even before I was sheriff, we only have one unsolved big deal here, and that's Barbara Blunt.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing we have that's an unsolved case for us when it comes to a homicide, because we know she was murdered. There's no doubt that she was. And so, and that has bothered and haunted me for years. And we look at that case not just once a year when it's the anniversary in May. We look at it almost once a month, and we continue to get tips on that. And that's because of a lot of people put that information out. I know, Woody Overton's a big advocate of that. He's helped us a lot with that case, and he's continued to help us with that case. And we're going to solve that case. Yeah. Before I retire as sheriff, and I don't know when that's going to be, I'm going to solve that case. That case is very solvable, and it's going to happen.
Well, it won't be anytime soon. I can tell you that, in my opinion.
Thank you.
I want to say this, and just two quick things, and we'll wrap it up here. But I think this is important. So thank y'all for sticking with us. We've been going a little while, but this is important. I want you to hear it, because this speaks to what you're really who you are as a person, Sheriff Ford, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's. There was a Facebook post, and it says, on September 20th, 2022, Stephen had a very serious and complicated surgery with his spinal cord, and this is Sloan Stephen Erdy. After almost 2 years in surgery, the post-op consultation left my family facing absolute uncertainty. My first phone call was directly from our sheriff, or to our sheriff, rather. Later that night, late, like 11 p.m., while sitting in the trauma critical care unit at OLOL, the nurse came in and said there were two men waiting outside to come and see Stephen. Not knowing who, and after a long day, I said, send them back. When they entered the room, my heart sank, eyes filled up with tears, and solidified what I already knew to be true about our sheriff. Our sheriff, Jason Ard, and chaplain Daryl Courtney walked to my husband's bedside, held his hand, and began to pray. They went out of their way to come to us, to be there for us, and pray with us. The following weeks and months were challenging and trying, but there were never any hesitation in his voice. Take care of your family, and we will take care of the rest. I can assure you that each and every one of his deputies and their families, from the bottom to the top, are his family, and he is ours. I'm proud and honored to serve for and work for our sheriff. I say this because he's not afraid to go to boots on the ground and walk right alongside any of us. That's huge.
Yeah, I should have read that before you did.
Yeah, yeah. It's to me, I would imagine if I was in your place, that's about the biggest compliment you can get.
It is. Look, there's no doubt. I love my deputies. They do a great job, and they are a part of a family. We call it the LPSO family. And, I do everything I can to take care of them. So they'll do everything they can to take care of our community.
Yeah.
And I believe that's what we do here.
Yeah, it really is. And you mentioned it earlier, but Romans 13:4, for he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain, for he is the servant of God, an avenger who carries out God's wrath on the wrongdoer. Mm-hmm. That's you, brother.
Well, I appreciate that.
I love it. And look, early voting, the 30th, tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'm dropping this
tomorrow.
today. And of course, the actual election day is the 14th, I believe. October 14th?
Yeah, October the 14th.
Yes.
To start Saturday. And I just want to say this, Jim.
Yes, sir.
I said it earlier. We have really important elections coming up. And I'm concerned about one election, and that's the sheriff race.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that my brother Jeff is running for parish president.
Yeah.
We have a process in this parish.
Yeah.
And the process is the people will go and they will vote for who they want to vote for. And I've always said this. Whoever the people elect is who the sheriff will work with. And so they'll make the right decision. Do your homework. Study everything. Make sure you elect your right senator, your right representative, your right parish president. Elect the same sheriff, and we're going to do the best job. We've always done a good job. We're going to continue to do the best job we can.
Yeah.
And moving forward, we have great things that will happen in this parish, and we are continuing to grow. We've already did a lot of great things. When you do your research, you'll see that, and we have so many great things coming. And so just look, go vote, and don't not vote and complain. You can't. To me, if you don't vote, you can't complain.
That's
so
right.
Get out
or
there,
assume,
vote,
assume
everything's okay.
Yeah,
it's going to be fine. And
they don't need my vote.
Right.
Yeah,
look,
everybody needs your vote that you want to support.
That's right. And look, and so there's two locations now, and I don't want people to get confused. So the library on Eden Church Road in Denham Springs, right on 190 and Eden Church Road, in a roundabout, there's a library. On the backside of the library is absentee voting.
Yeah.
Here on the west side. That's been a big deal for us. We did it for the first time, and we had a good turnout for absentee voting. It's a lot more convenient. They don't have to drive all the way to Livingston.
Right.
But if you do want to go to Livingston, it's by the newest assessor's office. So it's out on 63. The new registrar of voters office right beside the assessor's office in Livingston. That's also absentee voting. So that starts Saturday. Of course, we'll be closed on Sunday. It starts back open on Monday and goes all the way through the following Saturday. And so that is whenever it's time to vote. So get out there and early vote. And I know there's two big things going on Election Day and right now. And I'm very jealous that I'm not one of the guys in the woods with my bow hunting right now. So when I got up this morning, it was nice and cool. But no, we're boots on the ground right now. But I know your husbands and even some of these ladies like to go hunting, but you need to go vote. And October the 14th, we have a big LSU game.
Yeah.
We have a home game, and they're playing Auburn. Everybody's going to be going to tailgate. Go vote before you get out to Baton Rouge, because we all know you get out there tailgating, and it turns into a really good game, and the next thing you know, the polls are closed, and it's all great.
That's right.
We have so many availabilities for you to go and vote. Use that. I mean, go do the early voting. It's very convenient. And again, if you're not voting, you shouldn't have a right to complain.
That's right. I've said that my entire life. It's a true statement, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all you have done, not only in your 12 years as sheriff, but your 30 years in law enforcement.
Thank you.
It takes a special person, y'all, to go out there every day and protect and serve. And look, these days, the guys that are behind that badge, they're legit. They're doing it because they love it, and they're doing it because they want to protect you, and you lead that charge, and I appreciate it. And I know the parish does too. And so thank you very much. It's been an honor. I kept you for an hour 30, and I appreciate you hanging in with me.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. And please share this. If you hear it, share it out there and spread the word on this podcast. And until next time, I'm Jim Chapman, reminding you, love your community, support local business and current sheriffs, and keep leading. Thank you very much.